Hi everyone, this is Nikki Popoola, and I'm excited to be a part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. For those tuning in for the first time, this podcast takes you behind the scenes of the fast paced world of telecom and showcases the human side of some of the most well known individuals within the space. And today we feature one such individual who's extremely popular and very well known within our circuit. She has battled many personal challenges to reach where she is today and still has her fighting spirit on. A couple of years ago, I was watching a video by the carrier community, and to my surprise, the voice of Mother Earth was played by none other than our guest today. So, you are about to listen to a very soothing and calming voice in our podcast. So, please join me in welcoming our guest for the day, Nikki Popoola, Sales Director West Africa at WIOCC. Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anurag. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Thanks a lot, Nikki, for agreeing to be a part of this journey. Let's start with hearing a bit more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Okay. Well, I believe, where do I start? I was born in the UK, but my family's originally from Nigeria. Right now, I am in my tiny village in Oxfordshire. And when I say village, I mean village.
But Nikki, when you say village, yes, I think it's quite an urban village that you're a part of. But we'd love to hear a lot more about your journey. So tell us more. How's your professional and personal career shaped over the past couple of decades?
It actually extends further than a couple of decades. I'm no spring chicken. Well, my career started off in sales. I sold in many industries, including pharmaceuticals and drinks, the FMCG side as well, advertising. And through a stroke of luck, a friend of a friend passed my CV onto someone in cable and wireless, and that's how I ended up in telecoms. He knew I had no experience in telecoms, but he said, "Can you sell?" And I think, apart from the selling skills, he was looking for someone to cover Africa and the Middle East, and he liked the fact that my origins were African and, in particular, Nigeria.
Okay. And how did the journey unfold after cable and wireless? What were you doing there, and how did things move on from there?
It was quite exciting, and I feel privileged that throughout my career I've always focused on Africa. I say Africa. Africa is a huge continent with over 50 countries. It's mainly sub-Saharan Africa that I've focused on, and in the last 7 years, in particular, more West Africa, and in particular, Nigeria. I've been privileged to see so many countries in the continent. I'd never have had that opportunity without being in telecoms. And it's just been amazing to see the growth. When I first started selling services into Africa, I was selling over satellites, small capacities. I mean, imagine one country, the extent of their bandwidth being 8 by 4 megabits. And now we're selling hundreds of gigs. In some cases, we're talking about terabits of capacity. Things have changed so much. I've been privileged to see mobiles coming alive in Africa, what it's done for communities. And yeah, it's just been an amazing time. Yes, and I feel privileged to have been part of that and to have played a small part in developing telecoms in Africa.
And given that you are from UK and you keep hopping between Africa and UK, how would you compare the culture, the people of the two places? What is, well, of course, we know there are stark differences between Africa and Europe, but what would be some salient points which you would like to mention, which are very interesting about both cultures?
Well, as I said earlier, Africa is a big continent and people are very, very different wherever you go in Africa. Um, I'll start with East Africa, for instance. I find people are far more, they're much quieter. Whilst in West Africa and in Nigeria, and this is where the Nigerian in me comes, Nigerians are far louder, much more outspoken. And yeah, I think I think I'm quite outspoken, which sometimes gets me into trouble. When you dig down, people to a large extent are the same. We all have our wants, our desires, our needs, and everyone wants everyone wants their families to be happy, to provide for their families. It's the same everywhere.
Fair enough, Nikki. I think that's a fair point. That I think deep down we are all the same.
Absolutely.
So, Nikki, moving on, since you mentioned about your career and how you've been with cable and wireless and moved around so much and been hopping between Africa and Europe and different parts of the world, I'm sure there must be some very memorable or impactful moments or periods in your career and your personal life. So, would you like to share with our listeners some such memorable or impactful moments or periods?
Wow, where do I start? Um, on the work front, it was seeing cables finally land across Africa, not just because initially the only cable present was in South Africa, and seeing cables land and being able to deliver that was an amazing time, and see the change that it made in people's lives. Recently, I ran into someone and he was telling me how I sold him five E1s. Imagine that, five E1s on Sat3. And he said the impact it made on their BlackBerry service was phenomenal. It's just amazing to think five E1s can impact a service that much. Personally, I would say, of course, the birth of my daughter, and latterly, I was diagnosed with breast cancer about 10 years ago, and it was a tough time. It was a tough time for me, but I survived it. I survived it with the help of friends and family. And at the time, I was with Tata, and they were very supportive. Yeah, it's been tough, but it's given me renewed vigor, and now I enjoy life even more. I seize every moment I have. It lets me know I value life more. I've always valued life, but yeah, it's just made me more aware of how fragile that life is. And I just feel very, very fortunate. I've known others, close friends who have gone through similar experiences who haven't survived. So I feel I'm a lucky one. And yeah, I need to make use of that. And yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
I think that's such a wonderful thought, Nikki. I mean, you're very right. Life is so fragile. And in today's environment, where we see so many things which have happened, which we never even thought about. And I think, yes, I think the most important takeaway from this entire thing is that, carpe diem, seize the day. So I think it's very important that
Absolutely.
we live life to the fullest and make the most of each and every moment and not take it for granted. So that's a very wonderful thought, Nikki. And I'm glad to know that you're absolutely well and alive and kicking. And you were destined to be in a podcast. So naturally, nothing can happen to you.
I'm full of energy.
Absolutely. So, Nikki, we move to our next section, which we call the human side. And
Yeah.
not that what we spoke about till now was less human, but we discuss a couple of things more specific to Nikki. So, since you said you're so alive and with so much of energy, so what is your secret sauce? What is it that helps you recharge? What is it that you're passionate about? Something you can share with us.
Wow. I'm passionate about so many things. Of course, my family. Very much so. My daughter, my number one priority in life. My daughter, and yeah, I love her to bits. And yeah, my dogs, travel. I love travel. I love doing exciting stuff. In the recent past, I've gone. Um, I did oh God, I skydiving. I did with my daughter last year. That was absolutely amazing. I was really scared, but I loved it. Um, and I love zip lines. I love doing thrilling stuff. And my dogs, I love, love, love walking with my dogs every morning. That's my priority when I'm at home, going walking with my dogs. It just gives me, it's great to get the fresh air and just time on my own, time to breathe and travel. I love to travel, even though travel is part of my job. It's given me an added thirst for travel to discover new places. I love going all over the place, having holidays with friends and family. Yeah, I love life.
Interesting. There are so many passions out here that it's difficult to keep track, from family to pets who also become part of family to adventure
Absolutely.
sports. Yeah, so there's just so much that you're doing. Awesome. So the
Mm.
next one is Nikki. I'm gonna put up a couple of words to you, and as I always tell my guests, that be human, be spontaneous. We'd love to know what's the first thought that comes to your mind. So I'm gonna put up five words, one after the other, and would look forward to know what's the first thing that you think of. Can we move ahead with that?
Okay.
All right. The first one is a simple one. Telecom,
Telecom. Life changing.
life changing, and why so?
Yes. I think I'm using it through my lens. I see the advancements it can provide in societies. It changes lives. Some are apparent, some not so apparent. Giving everyone broadband. I know what mobiles have done. We look at East Africa, M-Pesa, telecoms. It changes the fortunes of people.
Absolutely. The next one is motivation.
Motivation, money.
That's an honest one.
Absolutely.
I'm actually glad that you said this, because often you hear responses which are also, I mean, I think it's to each their own, but I think at a very fundamental level, when we talk about survival being our biggest source of motivation, then yes, money is definitely a source of
Absolutely.
motivation.
Unfortunately, without money, I wouldn't be able to do all the things I love. So, yeah, money is seriously motivating. And yeah, I think being in sales, yeah, you need to be motivated to some extent by money. It's not just about money, of course. Succeeding, success, and wanting to see, wanting to win. But yeah, money is a huge motivator.
I agree. I think it helps set a metric to the success as well. So I think
Yes.
it's a fair point. The next one is family.
My daughter, as I mentioned before, yeah, my daughter is everything to me.
All right. And the other side, career.
Fulfilling, fulfilling. It's yeah, I'm really privileged. I feel really privileged with the career I've had to date. And latterly, I would say with WIOCC, it's been an amazing experience seeing all we've achieved. WIOCC is a small organization, but I would say we punch well above our weight. We're doing amazing things. And I think the future ahead is very challenging, but I'm just excited about all the things we're doing.
Awesome. And the last one, where we are today, podcast.
Well, apart from Humans of Telecoms, of course, I actually got into podcasts during the lockdown because I spent so much time walking, and I was listening to different things, and I discovered podcasts, and I have many favorite ones, as I said, apart from Humans of Telecoms, which came recently. But yeah, there's one I like in particular called How to Fail, and it's just amazing. And this lady, Elizabeth Day, asked people to name three failures in life. And some people come up with things like, oh, I never learned to drive. But other people come up with more profound things that really make you think. And it's like essentially saying failure shouldn't it doesn't define your life. You learn from it. I mean, we all have failures, but they're learning experiences, and you move on from that and become a stronger person.
Yeah, I agree. I think failures are the biggest teachers of all, and I think you learn so much from them. So I think that's a fabulous concept, asking people their failures, and everyone can learn from each other. So that's a good one. And I think to all the listeners, you have yet another podcast you can listen to. So there you are. Thank you for that, Nikki. All right. So, Nikki, the next one is an interesting game we play. I ask my guests to tell three statements. Two of them have to be truths, and one of them has to be a lie. And I have to guess which one is a lie. And I must confess that I have almost always failed to guess the right one. In the last episode, we had Nicholas Su from Indonesia. And with him also, while I gave it my best shot, but once again, I failed. I'm hoping that. I have my luck in favor this time. So, would you have three statements for us?
Okay, let me come up with three. Um, I've travelled to every continent.
Hmm.
I've been detained in Gabon, and
Hmm.
I've been caught speeding.
Okay. Those are some interesting ones. Let's see now. I think, given your love for traveling, you must have traveled. That must be a truth. I think we all, at some point in our life, have been caught for speeding. So I'm guessing that's the truth. While I'd love to believe that the third one is also truth, I'm hoping that's a lie. So I'm guessing you've not been detained in Gabon. So am I right here?
You are wrong. Um, I have been caught speeding
Okay.
several times. I was detained in Gabon,
Oh my God.
and I haven't been to every continent. The continent I haven't been to is Antarctica.
Okay. I thought, your love for travel would have taken you to Antarctica as well, but I'm sure,
Not
uh,
yet, not yet. It's on the list. It's on the list.
I'm sure, God willing, definitely we'll get to see Nikki waving her British flag in Antarctica someday. Okay, but then the natural next question is, so whatever happened in Gabon?
Now that was really, really tough.
Hmm.
I went to Gabon. This was quite a few years ago. I was in Cable and Wireless at the time. And as well as a British passport, I have a Nigerian passport, which enables me to travel to West African countries with no visa. I went to Gabon wrongly thinking that you'd think I'd know better, but I assumed Gabon was part of West Africa. Sadly, it's not. I did find out before I travelled, but I was told I could get a visa when I got there. So landed in Gabon with all my papers, including the letter of invitation from OPT Gabon. At the time, we were the only people providing internet services to the country. And the only thing missing was a letter from Cable and Wireless. Next thing I knew, I was locked up. Unfortunately, and I'm embarrassed to say, my French is not great. So I have a few words, but this lady came and said, "Follow me." I ended up in this room with six men. So you can imagine me being alone in a room with six men and no window. And that was a time my phone wasn't working. Unfortunately, Vodafone wasn't roaming in Gabon. Orange was the only network that was roaming, so I couldn't even phone anyone to let them know. So it's a long, detailed story, but cut the story short. I ended up being detained there for a total of 13 hours. And in the end, what saved me was they had sent someone to the airport to come and get me. And he eventually found out what had happened. And it was also a Sunday, so that made it even harder. So he finally got some senior army officer to ask them to release me. So I was released at 1 a.m. in the morning, having arrived at 10 a.m. in the morning. There's much more I can say, but that would take more than the time we've got. But yeah, needless to say, it was a very traumatic experience, and I haven't returned to Gabon since then.
Oh, wow. Amongst all the episodes till now, I must say, Nikki, this is by far one of the most unexpected and quite a roller coaster ride you've had out there in Gabon. So,
Oh yeah, that's just one of many experiences traveling across Africa. I've had loads I could say.
I guess we must keep one podcast episode dedicated only for Nikki's travel episodes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, Nikki, moving on to the last question of this section, I'm guessing you're fond of reading or watching movies or some TV series. So, would you have one such favorite movie or some series? And if there is one character you could play, who would that be and why?
One character. Two. Doctor Who. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Doctor Who. It's Doctor Who is a series I've watched since I was a child, and I was really pleased when they brought it back. With my love of travel, I'd love to be able to travel anywhere in the world. In fact, anywhere in the universe. I'd love to be able to move back in time, forward in time, see my old self, see my young self, see the world after I've gone. So yeah, Doctor Who. And again, to be able to change things, and yeah, Doctor Who, I'd say.
Yep, yep. Back in India, also, we've had Doctor Who being a very popular series for a while. So I am aware of that character. Incidentally, I have a very similar favorite movie series of my own, Back to the Future.
Ah, time travel.
Yeah, so once again, there you have Doc and Marty, going around back and forth, and that's an interesting one. But yeah, it's a dangerous one, time travel for sure, but I can imagine it's an interesting one.
Absolutely.
So, Nikki, with that, we come to our final section, our sign off section. And we'd like to know two things. Firstly, since you are such a traveler, as you've mentioned, I'm sure you're moving around different conferences, different events. So, if somebody wants to meet you, learn more about what happened in Gabon and in some of your other travels, which are some of the conferences and events you are attending where one can get hold of you?
Okay. Well, countrywide, I mean, in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be in Nigeria, Kenya, and DRC. But so yeah, if anyone out there is in any of those countries, I'll be happy to meet with them. But I'm looking forward to the first ITW Africa. I believe that's in September, and of course, Capacity Europe, which will be in the UK, and thereafter AfricaCom in Cape Town. I believe those are the ones I'm attending so far this year. There may be more that I'm missing out. You never know, but yeah, those are the ones that I plan to be at currently.
Wonderful. So, to all our listeners who want to hear some of the exciting stories of Nikki, pack your bags for Africa because that's where you can find this lady. And Nikki, our final question, which is our signature question. So, what does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
She lived, she gave.
And she conquered.
Absolutely. She lived, she gave, she conquered. Here, here. Yes. Yes.
Wonderful. I think that's a fantastic thought to end this chapter on, Nikki. So, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on our show today. And I really hope that in the coming months we cross path at some point and we're able to catch up more on some of your travel stories.
Absolutely, Anurag. I look forward to it.
Absolutely, Nikki. So, thank you once again for being a part of this journey. And to all our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Nikki, someone who's battled through cancer and is living to tell her tale and is doing every adventure sport possible on earth to the extent of even being detained in Gabon for that, maybe. There is so much that we've learned about Nikki in today's podcast. So, if you liked today's episode and would like to hear more such compelling stories, do stay tuned in because we shall soon be releasing yet another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.